This is NBC Nightly News, Thursday, January 8th, with John Chancellor reporting from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. Zhou Enlai is dead. According to the new China news agency, the Chinese premier died in Peking of cancer at the age of 78. For a year or so, Zhou has been confined to a hospital bed with a heart condition. More recently, his doctors did not allow him to do any work. But in the 27 years of his premiership, he assumed that post in 1949 when the People's Republic of China was formed. Zhou Enlai helped shape modern China and became one of the most influential men in the world. We have a radio report tonight from China's largest city on the reaction of the people there when they learned of Zhou's death. The city is Shanghai. The reporter is Lynn Joyner of Westinghouse Broadcasting. Here is her report.
At this very moment, Radio Peking is broadcasting the news of Zhou Enlai's death to the Chinese people. Here in Shanghai, the loudspeaker system in the streets is telling the people of the city that Zhou Enlai died at 9:57 a.m. in Peking on January 8th of terminal cancer. Mao Zedong and other leaders of the Communist Party have expressed their deep sadness and told the people that Zhou Enlai was an excellent party member, a proletarian revolutionary, a dedicated fighter, and an outstanding leader. This is the first time that the Chinese have been told that Zhou Enlai was suffering from terminal cancer. Until now, the Chinese people only knew that Zhou Enlai was in a hospital in Peking.
Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State, said this afternoon, "I have always thought of Zhou Enlai as a very considerable man, a great leader." At the White House, President Ford issued a statement in which he said the United States offers its condolences to the government and the people of the People's Republic of China. Mr. Ford also said, "We Americans will remember him especially for the role he played in building a new relationship between the People's Republic and the United States." In San Clemente, California, Richard Nixon, who opened that new relationship, said only a handful of men in the 20th century will match Premier Zhou's impact on world history. Zhou Enlai became a household word in America in February of 1972 when satellite television showed him welcoming to Peking the President of the United States and Mrs. Nixon. That scene culminated 3 years of effort by Zhou to establish formal contact with the United States. It is now known that Chinese leaders in 1969 had decided to seek a period of quiet with Western nations and to begin with the United States. Zhou was assigned the task of bringing this about. He began the invitations, a table tennis team, then 3 journalists, a few businessmen, finally Henry Kissinger, and then Nixon. It is possible that only Zhou Enlai could have made that day happen. This is one of the earlier pictures of Zhou. It was taken in 1938 when he was general of the 8th Route Army, a post he had earned during the Communists' long march to the Mongolian border. Zhou had been a revolutionary from his teens. By 21, he had been jailed 6 months for inciting a street riot. Zhou was educated in China, Japan, France, England, and Germany. In Paris, he recruited other Chinese students to the Communist Party. By the end of World War II, Zhou had become Mao's spokesman overseas. He was beginning his career as a diplomat. Moscow, 1952. Zhou signing one of several treaties establishing Chinese-Soviet friendship. Joseph Stalin stands behind him, Georgy Melyenkov and Lavrentiy Beria beyond Stalin. 5 months later, Joseph Stalin was dead, and Zhou's carefully cultivated Soviet-Chinese relationship was about to change. Nikita Khrushchev repudiated many of Stalin's policies. At the 1961 Party Congress, Khrushchev attacked Albania for remaining Stalinist, really an attack on China. Zhou Enlai then led the Chinese delegation from the meeting. The Sino-Soviet friendship had become an open quarrel. During the 1960s, Zhou worked to blunt Soviet expansionism. He traveled extensively throughout Africa into the Middle East, urging countries to avoid dependence on the Soviet Union, cautioning them about coming under Kremlin influence. He helped to keep much of that world non-aligned. Came the 1970s and the new accommodation with the United States. American visitors arrived. Joe personally greeted many of them. Zhou Enlai was married when he was 27 to Deng Ying Chao. She had been his friend and comrade in revolution since their days in high school. She and Joe worked together, usually serving on the same party and government committees. They had no children. Zhou Enlai was an urbane, witty, charming man. He had slim, expressive hands. He was a Mandarin, born of a family that had served the emperors of China. His given name, Enlai, means advent of grace. He was graceful and very hard-working. During cultural revolutions, political disputes, economic breakdowns, droughts, it was Joe who kept the machinery of government functioning. He was called, and he earned the title, the indispensable Mandarin.
For some time, the man in charge of the Chinese government has been Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping. And from all we saw during President Ford's recent visit to Peking, Deng will continue to help to be the head man. The death of Zhou did not come as a surprise, and it is not expected to produce any immediate changes in the Chinese leadership. Also in the news again today, Angola. We will check on the American diplomatic efforts for a solution and hear what William Colby of the CIA said today about Angola. We'll take a look at something which has increased the sale of guns in Florida, a mysterious wave of terror attacks, which have included rape and murder. And from the city of Chicago, we'll have the story of the misdirected computer which caused a lot of wives to be suspicious of their husbands, and a lot of husbands to be suspicious of their wives. Those stories and others in a minute.
Are you making that rug from my room?
Now you stole my surprise.
How do you do it? I thought you had arthritis.
Oh, sometimes my arthritis acts up, and the fingers hurt and get a little stiff. But then I take Anacin and they feel better. Anacin relieves my pains for hours. I get great relief.
And I get a new rug.
For occasional minor arthritis pain and its stiffness, for more freedom of movement without pain, Anacin.
It's beautiful.
I'd like you to take a close look at this bread. The color is light brown, and the texture, a unique blend of whole grain wheat and whole grain rye. There's bran, defatted flaxseed, and other nutritious ingredients, including pure golden honey. This isn't ordinary bread. It's Roman meal, the good-tasting light brown bread. Roman meal, natural whole grain goodness. The Roman Meal Company thought you'd like to know.
The leader of one of the two pro-Western factions in Angola warned today that the Soviet-backed popular movement may begin a new offensive timed for the meeting of the Organization of African Unity this weekend. Such an offensive could be an attempt to influence the deliberations of the OAU on Angola. In Washington, the immediate concern of the White House, the Pentagon, and the CIA appeared today to be the presence of 3 Soviet Navy ships off Angola. Richard Valeriani has more on that.
The director of the CIA, William Colby, appearing on NBC's Today program, suggested the presence of those Russian ships was one reason why the United States should continue helping the anti-Soviet forces in Angola.
We have a situation now where we have a Soviet destroyer, a Soviet cruiser, Soviet LST, Soviet oilers in the neighborhoods off West Africa. There's no question about it. The Soviets are expressing their interest in that area. Now, to say that CIA should not give some help to some friends who are trying to struggle against a desire by the Soviets and the Cubans and their group that they're manipulating and supporting, I think is the height of absurdity.
Assistant Secretary of State William Shoffley, just back from Africa, offered this view of the Russian presence.
I think they are testing, in effect, our will in view of the weaknesses that they perceived because of the continuing public debate, which not only includes Vietnam and Watergate, but goes on to intelligence activities. I think that they have aspirations in Africa, and this step in Angola is perhaps the most blatant, most forceful step that the Soviet Union has ever taken in Africa, in the form of direct intervention in massive amounts, and in effect bringing in outside troops, which really is the first time that has happened in Africa.
Shapley also said the withdrawal of South African forces from Angola could strengthen the hand of African moderates who are trying to promote a political solution there. But at the same time, he said, South Africa's pullout could also reduce military pressure on the faction supported by the Russians, thus making it less willing to enter into negotiations. Richard Valeriani, NBC News, Washington.
The White House today did not deny last night's report by Richard Valeriani that South Africa will soon pull its troops out of Angola. Press Secretary Ron Nessen, in answer to a question, said only, "We have received no official word that South Africa is withdrawing troops." Also on this morning's Today program, CIA Director Colby was asked about reports in the New York Times and the Washington Post that the CIA has spent $6 million on anti-communist political parties and politicians in Italy in the last month.
We have not spent a nickel in Italy in the past few months, to be specific about it. We have not done so. I cannot discuss what our plans, what our thoughts might be for the future. Should the United States help its friends in a friendly country to keep that country from coming under a communist control and having the Communist Party be the majority party in that country, I think the United States can help its friends.
You say you haven't spent any money yet, but you do plan to, don't you?
I am not at liberty to discuss what the details of our activities, but I think I can say that we have not spent any money, period.
Congressman Wayne Hayes, one of the congressmen briefed by Colby, agreed that indeed was what the CIA director had said in the closed session. Hayes said the only thing he told us was what he planned to do in the future. A day after the Italian government resigned, following the defection of the socialists, 1 million workers went on strike in Italy today. The strike was started by 200,000 civil service workers who want more money, and they were joined by 800,000 others in private industry.
What does it take to start the wheels of American industry rolling? It takes machines, men, and money. That's where savings and loans come in. Money you save with us goes back into your community in the form of home loans. The savings and loan commitment to housing generates over $100 million a day for jobs, goods, and services. Help keep America rolling by having your savings account at your savings and loan.
I've been using Morton light salt at the table because it has only half the sodium of regular salt. They love it. Tuesday, I thought, try it in the stew. Wednesday, I used it in place of regular salt in Bill's favorite cake. Measures exactly the same. And Thursday, Bill polished it off. So, on Friday, I stopped buying 2 kinds of salt. Morton light salt does everything salt should with half the sodium.
On Friday, you can stop buying 2 kinds of salt. Not for people on a sodium or potassium-restricted diet unless approved by a physician.
Herb, I bought an air conditioner.
An air conditioner?
Not that kind of air conditioner, this kind. Glade Solid air freshener. Conditions the air and gets rid of odors.
How do you plug it in?
You don't, Herb. It's an air freshener. Glade Solid. See, this ventilation system works continuously so the air smells fresh and clean.
Fits in a window?
It's not an air conditioner. It's an air conditioner.
Oh, really?
Glade Solid eliminates odors and conditions the air.
In Washington today, 9 labor leaders angrily resigned from a presidential advisory committee. They quit in protest against President Ford's veto of a bill that would have allowed pickets to shut down an entire construction site in a dispute with a single subcontractor. Mr. Ford had promised to sign that bill, but changed his mind. Irving R. Levine has more on today's story.
The union leaders walked out of the committee that was appointed by President Ford 10 months ago to head off strikes in the construction industry. Also, the union leaders who supported President Nixon in the last election said that the walkout meant they would not support President Ford.
As far as support of Mr. Ford is concerned, my own personal opinion is if he can't support labor, I don't know how labor can support him.
He will get absolutely no support from me or the general presidents here, and any influence we may have would be to influence our people not to support him.
The union leaders were asked about Labor Secretary Dunlop's statement that wage negotiations for construction workers would be unmitigated hell this year if President Ford vetoed the picketing bill.
I think that Secretary Dunlop has 35 years of experience in the construction industry, and I would be inclined to agree with his assessment.
The walkout makes John Dunlop's resignation as Labor Secretary almost certain, probably next week. And there will be other consequences. First, other labor leaders will resign from other White House committees. And second, it may make it more difficult to prevent inflationary wage settlements for construction workers. And third, this ends all President Ford's hopes for any organized labor support for his campaign. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
The president got more bad political news from the latest Gallup poll. It shows him only 39% of those questioned approve his performance in office. That's down 7 points from the previous Gallup poll. Since the 6th of last October, 14 rural homes in Central Florida have been invaded by a band of sadistic gunmen who have committed murder, rape, torture, and a variety of other crimes. Terrorized residents are convinced the gunmen will strike again. Judy Woodruff reports.
This rural area in Central Florida has been struck by terrorists 14 times in the past 3 months. Their history is one of murder, rape, and torture. 2 men murdered, 6 women raped, 2 of whom were thrown off bridges. Drain cleaner was poured in the eyes of another, and she is partially blind. In each case, the terrorists wore ski masks and gloves. Police say they have reason to believe they are black. Their victims have all been whites living in isolated areas.
They have come in unannounced and move in and threaten the people, saying, we don't want to kill you, but we do want you to suffer. Something has caused them to be very vindictive and sadistic in their operation. And this, of course, is their method. What has caused them to be this way, we don't know.
Law enforcement officials admit they are stumped because the men have been careful to leave few clues behind. The incidents have frightened many people in this quiet rural area. A few reacted by vowing to find the terrorists themselves. Many others have taken strong protective measures. One hardware store sold its stock of guns several times over after the attacks began. And since another killing over the New Year weekend, there's more talk of buying guns.
As far as the gun sales, yes, definitely they're up. People are having to take care of themselves.
We have a gun in the house now, which we didn't have before. For years, we never had one. We do now.
Even myself, I got a gun. I'm ready for them. You know, they're coming in. I've got it loaded.
One thing is to have a nice loaded shotgun right in your bedroom, and the other thing is to keep your doors locked. And when anybody comes in, they're going to get it, that's all.
The lack of solid leads has led sheriff's deputies in one county to resort to stopping cars at night and asking for identification. So far, a $5,000 reward has brought no information.
28.
And police believe it's just a matter of time until the terrorists strike again. Judy Woodruff, NBC News, Lake County, Florida.
This man, Sylvan Fine, wanted for murder for more than 5 years in the bombing of a research building at the University of Wisconsin, has been arrested. The FBI said today Fine was picked up last night in San Rafael, California. 1 man was killed in that Wisconsin bombing. 1 man has gone to prison for that murder, and 2 others are still fugitives.
Now for the groom with heartburn who's been waiting at the altar for his best man who has the ring. For the best man with heartburn who's waiting to find out why his rented formal came with 2 vests and no pants. For the manager of the rental company with heartburn who's waiting to find out who got 2 pants and no vest. Alka 2, the antacid tablet that's built to fall apart. Choose easy, choose fast, and it works fast too. Cool and creamy, not as chalky, not as gritty. Alka 2, built to fall apart. Choose fast, and it works fast too.
My dentures were so dingy and yellow, I hardly opened my mouth.
My husband started calling me Mrs. Crabapple because I hardly ever smiled. Then I started brushing with Denture Cream. Denture Cream has an anti-yellowing formula that gets rid of dingy yellow film. And now Denture Cream helps keep that yellow from coming back because it polishes better than ever. Having yellow dentures took away my smile. Denture Cream's anti-yellowing formula gave me back my smile.
In Israel today, Defense Minister Shimon Peres warned that if Syria were to intervene in the civil war in Lebanon, Israel would consider that an invasion and would think about intervention itself. The renewed fighting in Beirut reached such a pitch of intensity today that more than 100 people were killed. John Palmer reports from Beirut.
After 4 days of fighting, a heavy layer of smoke all but obscures the Tal Zatar Palestinian refugee camp here in the eastern suburbs of Beirut. All roads leading to the camp with its 50,000 refugees have been blocked by members of the right-wing Phalangist Party Christian militia. The Phalange has insisted on the right to check all cars and trucks entering the camp to see if weapons are being carried in. In the past 48 hours, the blockade has become total. Not even food supplies are being allowed to pass. Despite the presence of heavily armed Phalangist gunmen using 50 caliber machine guns, rockets, and mortars, the Palestinians have launched a number of attacks to break the blockade. Until this latest round of fighting, the Palestinians have remained pretty much on the sidelines, being content to supply their Muslim allies with arms and military advice. Now the Palestinians are becoming more directly involved in Lebanon's civil war. Thus far, this latest clash between members of the right-wing Phalangist Party and the Palestinians has been limited to this area in the eastern suburbs of Beirut. But if the fighting continues, it's apt to spread to other parts of Beirut and lead to a total breakdown of this latest ceasefire. John Palmer, NBC News, in Beirut.
On the island of Jamaica late last night, 2 gunmen opened fire in front of the American consulate in the city of Kingston. They killed 1 Jamaican policeman guarding the building and critically wounded another. The police had been assigned there after a rock-throwing incident earlier in the day. And 2 other Jamaican policemen were shot to death yesterday at a construction site in Kingston. Thousands of workers went on strike in Spain today, demanding higher pay and declaring solidarity with the striking subway employees in Madrid. The Army ran the Madrid subway system for a second day. It is now providing 70% of normal service, but a lot of people are still having trouble getting to and from work. Today, the subway workers met and urged the Army to stop running the trains. For 35 years, under Generalissimo Francisco Franco, strikes were illegal in Spain. A new law makes some strikes legal, but not this subway strike. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average went up more than 9 points. It closed above 900 for the first time in more than 2 years. The Dow ended the day today at 907. It's gained 55 points in the past 5 sessions. On the New York Exchange today, the average share price increased 21 cents. Analysts attribute the rally to improved economic news and lower interest rates.
After planting shrubs, I asked my hands and switched to Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion.
After cleaning the gutters, I asked my hands and switched to Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion.
Ask your hands which makes them feel better, your lotion or Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion. Feel it heal rough, dry skin.
Ask your hands.
You'll switch to our Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion. Feel it heal rough, dry hands.
The city. It's busy. The pace is hectic. And it can be a tough place to get to sleep.
Oh, sure, sometimes it's pretty hard getting to sleep. But a long time ago, I learned about Sominex.
Sominex helps me relax and feel drowsy so I can get to sleep. Even in this town.
Doesn't matter where you live. Sometimes getting to sleep can be a problem. So, I take Sominex.
Sominex. It helps take the trouble out of falling asleep.
In North Platte, Nebraska today, a jury was chosen in a local murder case and the trial got underway. That means reporters will be able to report on the proceedings. Until now, press coverage has been limited because of a dispute over a gag order put out by the trial judge. That dispute will now make its way through the courts, and it may be one of the most serious tests of the First Amendment in this century. And finally this evening, the story of the misdirected computer in Chicago, which caused quite a lot of marital strife. It involves a hotel which set out on an advertising campaign. Mike Jackson reports.
The hotel had recently remodeled many of its rooms and, wanting to advertise that, hired a computer letter writing firm to send personalized notes to recent patrons.
The 4,000 names were carefully selected, but a computer operator used the wrong tape and the letters were sent to the wrong homes. 1,000 suspicious husbands and wives called the hotel to check up on their spouses.
There have been several men. What do you mean by accusing my wife of doing things like this? One guy said his lawyers were calling because they were on the way to divorce courts.
The hotel manager was up almost all night taking calls. Most of the callers, he said, were understanding or amused, but a few were serious.
There was one gentleman in particular that he said that if his wife did sue him because when he went home last night from work, she had already left, leaving a note to the effect that she was gone and that he would be hearing from her lawyer regarding a divorce.
No, ma'am, no one has been using your name. No, we're terribly sorry, and you will receive a letter of apology from the printers. Okay?
The manager says few people use hotels for clandestine rendezvous anymore, but there are apparently still a few who do.
And one woman said, well, fortunately, my husband's out of town, so I can burn this letter.
Mike Jackson, NBC News, Chicago.
That's it for this evening. Good night for NBC News.
If you are lucky enough to get this new sweepstakes letter from Reader's Digest, just think, you could be one of over 30,000 people who will win up to $24,000 in cash. In the new Reader's Digest sweepstakes, $400,000 will be awarded, including that $24,000 grand prize. So watch your mailbox and be sure to send in your entry, because it's the only way to win.
Wake up your wood, wake up your room, give it the feeling of a woodland with natural wood scent pledge. Natural wood scent pledge.
New Natural Wood Scent Pledge gives your furniture wax beauty instantly every time you dust. The beauty of the wood grain comes shining through.
Wake up your wood, wake up your room with natural wood scent pledge.
New companion to lemon and regular pledge.
Royal Ford, conveniently located downtown on 8th Avenue North, the dealer who cares enough about you to have the area's largest selection of MPG Fords at the lowest prices. Pinto Pony MPGs are priced from a low base price of only $28.95. And Mustang II MPGs carry a money-saving base of just $35.25. Royal Ford MPG headquarters cares enough to sell for less. Try us, 8th Avenue North, downtown.
Everyone knows the South is famous for traditional recipes and good cooking. But I want to tell you about a Southern tradition that's only a few years old. Captain D's Fish and Chips, Southern style. Golden brown fish fillets, French fries, and homemade hush puppies. That's Captain D's Fish and Chips, Southern style.
Captain D's, a great little seafood place.
Me and my RC surely appreciate all